I was standing in my kitchen, rinsing collard greens at the sink, when my phone buzzed on the counter. A voicemail notification lit up the screen from a number I didn't recognize. When I pressed play and heard a woman laugh softly and say my husband's name like it belonged to her, my knees actually buckled, and I had to grip the counter to stay upright. My name is Danielle Carter. I'm 41 years old, a community outreach coordinator for a nonprofit on the south side of Chicago. And for 18 years, I believed I was married to an honest man. That voicemail lasted 27 seconds. It destroyed nearly 2 decades of my life. "Hey, Marcus," the woman said, her voice smooth, familiar in a way that made my stomach turn. "I miss you. Last night was different. Call me when she's not around." She didn't say your wife. She said she, like I was a temporary inconvenience. I replayed it twice, then a third time. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone into the sink. Water splashed over the greens, soaking my shirt, but I didn't feel it. All I could hear was her voice echoing in my head, curling around my husband's name like it had every right to be there. Marcus was supposed to be at work. I looked at the clock on the microwave. 6:42 p.m. He texted me at 5, said he'd be working late again. I remember rolling my eyes, sending back a quick drive safe, because after 18 years, late nights didn't feel suspicious. They felt normal, familiar, marriage worn. We met when I was 22 and he was 25. Both broke, both hopeful, both convinced love was enough to outrun reality. We built a life the long way. Small apartment, secondhand furniture, Sunday dinners at my mama's house, church on Easter even when we didn't go the rest of the year, inside jokes that lasted longer than some people's marriages. I thought we were solid. I sat down at the kitchen table, my phone pressed to my chest, and tried to breathe. In out, in out. My mind raced, searching for explanations that didn't feel like knives. Maybe it's old. Maybe it's a wrong number. Maybe Marcus already shut it down. Then my phone buzzed again. A text this time. Unknown number. "Did you get my voicemail?" My heart dropped straight into my stomach. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then slowly typed back, using my husband's phone style, his short sentences, no emojis. Me. "Yeah. You can come by. She won't be home tonight." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but it settled something inside me. A switch flipped. I wasn't panicking anymore. I was thinking. I walked through the house like a stranger, noticing things I'd ignored for years. Marcus's jacket draped over the chair, his shoes by the door, scuffed at the heel. The family photos on the wall, us at my cousin's wedding, us in front of Lake Michigan, us smiling so wide it almost hurt to look at now. I didn't cry. Instead, I cleaned. I wiped the counters, folded the laundry, put on a pot of red beans and rice like it was just another Tuesday night. My movements were calm, deliberate, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm breaks. As I worked, pieces started clicking together. The late nights, the sudden interest in his appearance, new cologne, new haircut, gym membership he actually used, the way he'd started guarding his phone like it held state secrets. I told myself I hadn't been stupid. I'd been trusting. At 7:28 p.m., headlights flashed across the living room wall. Marcus's car. My pulse quickened, but my face stayed neutral. I turned the stove down, wiped my hands on a towel, and waited. He walked in smiling, loosening his tie. "Hey, babe. Smells good in here." I studied his face. The same face I'd kissed goodbye that morning. Same deep brown eyes. Same dimple in his left cheek. "How was work?" I asked. "Steady?" "Long," he said easily. "Too easily." "I might shower real quick. Dinner will be ready in a bit," I replied. He leaned in to kiss my cheek, and for the first time in our marriage, I resisted the urge to pull away. I let him. I needed him comfortable, unaware. While he was upstairs, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I'm outside. The doorbell rang 5 seconds later. Marcus was still in the shower. I walked to the front door slowly, my heart pounding so loud I was sure the whole house could hear it. I opened it, and there she stood. She was younger than me, maybe early 30s. Smooth brown skin, long braids pulled into a neat ponytail. She wore a fitted blazer and heels like she'd come straight from his office. Her eyes flicked past me, scanning the house. "I'm here to see Marcus." I smiled. Not polite. Not warm. "Oh," I said calmly, stepping aside to let her see the family photos lining the wall. "You must be the coworker." Her face drained of color. Before she could speak, I called up the stairs, my voice sharp and clear. Marcus, I said, your guest is here. The water shut off upstairs. Fast. The silence that followed was heavy, electric. The kind that makes your ears ring. The woman took a step back. Wait. I closed the door behind her with a soft click. No, I said quietly. You're exactly where you need to be. Footsteps thundered on the stairs. And in that moment, standing between my husband's lies and the woman he thought he could hide, I realized something important. Marcus had been living a double life. And I was about to make sure both worlds collided. Marcus appeared at the bottom of the stairs barefoot, towel slung low around his waist, water still dripping from his hair. The moment his eyes landed on the woman standing in our entryway, the blood drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. Danielle, he started, then stopped, because there was no version of this where his voice could save him. The woman, his coworker, looked between us, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide which lie to use first. Up close, I could see the confidence leaking out of her. Her shoulders were stiff. Her hand clutched her purse like it was armor. I folded my arms. You gonna introduce us? I asked calmly. Or should I do the honors? Marcus swallowed. This isn't what it looks like. I let out a short laugh. It surprised even me. Marcus, you're standing half naked in the house I pay half the mortgage on, staring at the woman who just left you a voicemail talking about last night. So please, tell me exactly what it looks like. Silence. Thick. Suffocating. The woman finally spoke. I didn't know, she said quickly, turning to me. He told me you two were separated. I tilted my head. Separated? She nodded eagerly. He said you moved out months ago. That the house was basically empty. I glanced around. Does this look empty to you? Her eyes flicked to the family photos again. The couch throw I crocheted. The shoes by the door. Reality hit her hard. And I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Marcus found his voice again. Danielle, please. Can we talk privately? No, I said immediately. We're talking right here. All of us. You don't get private anymore. His jaw tightened. That familiar flicker of irritation crossed his face. The one I used to mistake for stress. I saw it clearly now. Control slipping always made him angry. He turned to the woman. Tanya, you should go. So that was her name. Tanya hesitated. Then she looked at me again, something defensive settling into her expression. Look, I'm sorry if you're hurt, but Marcus and I raised my hand. Stop. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut clean through the room. This is my house, I said evenly. You don't get to explain your relationship to me like I'm an inconvenience. Marcus snapped. Danielle, you're embarrassing yourself. That did it. 18 years of swallowed frustration rose up like a wave. All the times I'd made myself smaller to keep the peace. All the moments I'd trusted him when my gut whispered something was off. I stepped closer to him, lowering my voice. You embarrassed me when you invited another woman into my home. Tanya's eyes widened. He invited me? I turned to her. Did he tell you this was our house? She shook her head slowly. He said he was renting. Marcus exploded. Why are you interrogating her? This is between us. I laughed again, sharper this time. No, Marcus. You made it between all of us. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed my phone from the counter, and came back. Tanya, you left a voicemail. Want to hear it? Her face went pale. I hit play anyway. Her own voice filled the room, soft and intimate, saying my husband's name like it was a secret meant only for her. When it ended, the silence felt heavier than before. Marcus covered his face with his hands. Jesus Christ. Tanya stared at him. You said she knew. I smiled tightly. He lies easily. Something in Tanya's expression shifted, anger replacing fear. So you've been lying to both of us? Marcus looked up. Tanya, please. She scoffed. No, don't please me now. She turned to me. I didn't know, but I won't be part of this. She walked toward the door. I let her reach for the handle before I spoke. Tanya, I said calmly, you work at Sterling Financial, right? She froze. Marcus's head snapped up. Danielle. I ignored him. Same office as Marcus. Same floor. Tanya turned slowly. How do you know that? I held his phone up. Because my husband forgot to delete a few things. Marcus lunged toward me, but I stepped back. Don't. I looked at Tanya again. I'm not asking you to stay. But before you go, understand this wasn't just an affair. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? I took a breath. This was where the truth got dangerous. For the past year, I said, Marcus has been moving money? Our money. Joint accounts. Retirement. Small transfers at first. Then bigger. Marcus shouted. That's not true. I met his eyes. Then why does your coworker's address show up on bank alerts? Tanya's mouth dropped open. What? I didn't know it was you, I continued. But now I do. She turned on Marcus, rage flashing across her face. You told me the money was yours. He stammered. It is, well, it's complicated. She laughed bitterly. Oh, it's about to get real simple. She looked at me. I'm done with him. But if he used my name or address for anything illegal, I'm protecting myself. I nodded. Smart. She walked out without another word. The door closed. Marcus sagged against the wall like a man whose bones had suddenly turned to dust. You ruined everything, he muttered. I stared at him. No. I just stopped pretending. He looked up, eyes wild. You think you've won? I shook my head slowly. This isn't winning. I leaned closer so he could hear the certainty in my voice. This is just the beginning. Because while he thought the worst thing had already happened, his lies exposed, his mistress gone, I had only shown him the surface. And beneath it was a plan he didn't see coming. That night, Marcus didn't sleep in our bed. Not because I told him not to, but because he didn't dare try. He spent the night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, while I lay upstairs listening to the house settle, every creak sounding like a countdown. I didn't cry. I didn't scream into a pillow. I just lay there, replaying everything I knew, everything I'd ignored, everything that suddenly made sense. At 4:17 a.m., I got up, quietly. I went into the home office Marcus used occasionally. The one he claimed was mostly for checking emails. The one I'd never really touched because it felt like his space. That was my first mistake as a wife. It wouldn't be my mistake as a woman. I powered on the desktop computer. Password protected, of course, but Marcus had never been good at imagining I might look closely. I tried our anniversary. Locked. Tried his birthday. Locked. Then I typed in my birthday. The screen unlocked. I smiled. Just a little. Inside, it was all there. Spreadsheets. Hidden folders. PDF statements labeled with neutral names. Q3 projections. MISC expenses. Travel reimbursements. I opened them one by one, my heart pounding harder with every click. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning an exit. Transfers from our joint account to a private one I didn't recognize. Cash withdrawals timed around work trips. Emails with a financial advisor discussing asset protection strategies in case of divorce. Divorce. He'd been preparing to leave me broke. By the time the sun came up, I had screenshots, copies, timestamps. I emailed everything to a brand new account I created just for this, one Marcus would never guess. At 7:02 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. We need to talk. I stared at it, then typed back. Tonight. After work. Let him sit with it all day. At work, I moved through my routine on autopilot. Answered emails. Led a meeting. Smiled when expected. But inside, I was sharpening something. My coworkers noticed I was quieter than usual. One of them asked if I was okay. I'm fine, I said honestly, because I was. I had clarity. During my lunch break, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Angela, my cousin, family law attorney, sharp as a blade, and not someone you lied to unless you enjoy consequences. The second was to Sterling Financial's compliance department. I didn't accuse. I didn't rant. I asked questions. Careful ones. By the time I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from anticipation. Marcus came home just after 6, carrying takeout like some kind of peace offering. He set it on the counter and looked at me cautiously, like I might explode. I didn't. We sat at the table like strangers. I made mistakes, he said finally. But we can fix this. I looked at him. Really looked. The man I'd built my life around. The man who thought love made him untouchable. You didn't make mistakes, I said calmly. You made decisions. His jaw clenched. You don't know everything. I slid my phone across the table. Try me. He scrolled. His face went gray. You went through my computer? I went through our future, I corrected. He stood up abruptly. You had no right. I stood too. You had no right to steal from me. His voice dropped. If you expose this, you ruin both of us. I shook my head. No, just you. He laughed bitterly. You think people will believe you? I stepped closer. I don't need them to believe me. I picked up my phone and showed him the email timestamp. Sterling Financial already knows, I said. And so does my lawyer. For the first time that night, fear crossed his face. Real fear. You wouldn't, he whispered. I leaned in, my voice low and steady. I trusted you for 18 years. Don't underestimate how thorough I can be when that trust is gone. I walked away, leaving him standing there with his lies collapsing around him. And as I climbed the stairs, one thought echoed clearly in my mind. Marcus thought exposure was the worst thing that could happen. He had no idea how much worse it gets when a woman stops protecting you. The next morning, Marcus didn't go to work. I knew because his car was still in the driveway when I left at 7:15, and because he texted me at 9:03 a.m. with a single line. We need to slow this down. That's always what people say when they realize they're losing control. I didn't respond. Instead, I met Angela for lunch. She was already seated when I arrived, tablet open, glasses perched low on her nose. She looked up at me and didn't smile. That man is in serious trouble, she said, skipping greetings entirely. I exhaled. How bad? Angela turned the tablet toward me. Worse than he knows. The transfers alone could qualify as marital asset dissipation. Add the fact that he used a coworker's address? That's reckless. I nodded slowly. He thought he was smarter than me. They usually do, she said. Especially when they've been getting away with it. I told her everything I hadn't said out loud yet. The small details, the patterns, the way Marcus had slowly repositioned himself as the victim in our marriage. How he'd sigh dramatically when I worked late. How he'd accuse me of being distracted, ungrateful, emotional. Angela listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back. So what do you want, Danielle? The question hung heavy between us. I want my life back, I said, and I want him to never do this to another woman. Angela nodded once. Then we don't rush. We let him keep thinking he can talk his way out. That afternoon, Marcus called me 3 times. I let it ring. By the time I got home, the house felt tense, like it was holding its breath. Marcus was pacing the living room, phone glued to his hand. You talked to a lawyer, he said immediately. Yes. You called my job. I asked questions. He scoffed. You're trying to ruin me. I set my bag down carefully. You ruined yourself. His tone shifted then, soft, pleading. Danielle, think about what this does to us. To our reputation. Our family. I laughed quietly. You already did. He stepped closer. I'll give the money back. That's not how consequences work. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Marcus didn't. Over the next few days, I watched him unravel in small, telling ways. He jumped when his phone rang. He stopped eating. He snapped at me, then apologized too quickly. The confident man I'd known was gone, replaced by someone scrambling to rewrite a story that was already written. Then, on Friday evening, he made a mistake. He went to Tanya's office. I didn't follow him. I didn't need to, because Sterling Financial called me the next morning. Mrs. Carter, the woman said professionally, we are conducting an internal review and need clarification regarding several accounts connected to your husband. I smiled to myself. Of course. By Sunday, Marcus knew. He slammed the front door so hard the walls shook. What did you do? I stood in the kitchen, calm, stirring a pot of soup like nothing in the world was wrong. I told the truth. They put me on administrative leave, he shouted. Do you know what that means? I turned to face him. It means they're checking to see how deep your lies go. He stared at me, breathing hard. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. No. I'm finished being afraid of you. He pointed at me. You think you got the upper hand? I met his gaze. I know I do, because what Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't see yet, was that the voicemail that started all this wasn't the only recording I had. And when the time came, the truth wouldn't just be private. It would be public. The voicemail wasn't the only thing I had. That truth settled in my chest like a quiet drum beat as the week unfolded. Marcus thought his world was falling apart because of money, because of work, because I'd finally stopped covering for him. But the real shift, the one that scared him the most, was that I wasn't reacting anymore. I was moving. On Tuesday morning, I took a personal day and drove across town to my mama's house. She was in the kitchen, same as always, humming gospel under her breath while frying catfish. When she saw my face, She turned the stove off without a word. What did he do? She asked. I didn't soften it. I didn't protect his image. I told her everything. By the time I finished, her lips were pressed into a thin line, eyes dark with disappointment, not in me, but in the man she'd welcomed into our family for nearly 2 decades. I always said, she murmured, a man who lies quietly is more dangerous than one who yells. She hugged me then. Long, tight, grounding. Before I left, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a folded document, an old insurance policy my father had taken out years ago, listing me as beneficiary. Your daddy believed in backups, she said. Just in case. That night, Marcus tried a new tactic. Kindness. He cooked dinner, lit candles, poured wine like we were still pretending. I've been thinking, he said gently. We can go to counseling. Start fresh. I studied him for a moment. The performance was almost impressive. You don't want counseling, I said. You want control. His smile faltered. That's not fair. Neither is stealing from your wife. He slammed his glass down. You keep acting like I'm the villain. You are. That word hit him harder than I expected. He stood abruptly. You think I don't have dirt on you? I tilted my head. If you did, you'd have used it already. His silence told me I was right. 2 days later, Angela called. They're escalating, she said. Sterling flagged additional transactions. And Danielle, this part matters, Tanya gave a statement. I closed my eyes. About what? About how he told her you were unstable. That you didn't understand finances. That he needed to protect himself. A cold anger spread through me. So he tried to paint me as incompetent. Angela sighed. Yes, but it backfired. Because now it looks like intent. That night, Marcus didn't come home. I didn't ask where he was. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, and watched the recordings I'd pulled from our home security system, the ones he'd forgotten existed. Late night calls. Whispered arguments. Him pacing, saying things he thought no one would ever hear. At 1:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Tanya. I didn't know how bad it was. I'm sorry. If you need anything, I'll tell the truth. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I replied, be ready. You might be called. Because the plan was shifting. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about ending the story he'd been telling about me, about us, about his innocence. And the final chapter was coming faster than he realized. Marcus came home the next morning like a stranger. His eyes were bloodshot. His tie was loose, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. He didn't look at me when he walked past, just dropped his keys on the counter and went straight to the bedroom. 10 minutes later, he came back out holding a folder. We need to talk, he said quietly. I didn't move from my seat at the table. Then talk. He set the folder down between us. Inside were printed documents, bank statements, retirement accounts, a handwritten list of assets. I'm willing to be fair, he said. Split everything. Clean. No court. No more damage. I flipped through the pages slowly. This, I said, tapping one statement, is missing 3 transfers. He stiffened. And this account, I continued, isn't even listed. His voice rose. I'm trying to fix this. You're trying to minimize it. He leaned forward, desperation leaking through his anger. If this goes public, I lose everything. I finally looked him straight in the eyes. You should have thought about that before you built a second life. He exhaled sharply. What do you want? The question surprised him. I took my time answering. I want the truth documented, I said. Every account, every transfer, every lie. He scoffed. And then what? Then I decide. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and froze. I knew that look. Who is it? I asked. He didn't answer. I stood, walked around the table, and looked at the screen. Sterling Financial Compliance. His hand shook as he declined the call. That's your problem, I said calmly. He dropped into a chair, head in his hands. You don't understand. They're treating this like fraud. I nodded. Because it is. That afternoon, I got another call, this one from Angela. They're opening a formal investigation, she said. And Danielle, the recordings. My heart skipped. What about them? They strengthen your case, especially the part where he talks about draining the account before she catches on. I closed my eyes. By evening, Marcus was pacing again. They're asking about the house, he said. About whether you knew. I met his gaze. Tell the truth. He laughed bitterly. You really don't care what happens to me. I thought about that. I cared, I said. You cured me of it. That night, he slept in the guest room. At 2:03 a.m., I heard him on the phone, whispering. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. The next morning, Angela called again. He's in trouble, she said simply. And Danielle, there's a hearing scheduled. I felt something settle into place. The confrontation I'd been preparing for, the one that would decide how this story ended, was finally coming. And Marcus still thought he could talk his way out. The hearing was scheduled for Thursday morning. Marcus tried to act normal in the days leading up to it, but normal had abandoned him. He moved through the house like a ghost, quiet, jumpy, careful not to provoke me. The man who once filled every room with his confidence now avoided my eyes. The night before the hearing, he knocked on the bedroom door. I didn't answer. Danielle, he said softly, please. I opened it just enough to look at him. Say what you need to say. He swallowed. If this goes the way I think it will, I won't survive it. I studied his face for a long moment. Not with anger, just clarity. You survived lying to me for years, I said. You'll survive the truth. The courtroom was cold and too bright. Marcus sat beside his attorney, hands folded so tightly his knuckles were white. I sat with Angela, calm in a way that surprised even me. When they called his name, he stood like a man walking toward a cliff. The compliance officer spoke first. Then the financial analyst. Charts were shown. Numbers explained. Patterns exposed. Then Angela stood. Your Honor, she said evenly. We'd like to submit additional evidence. Marcus turned slowly, eyes wide. Angela pressed play. His voice filled the room, clear, unmistakable. If I move it now, she won't notice until it's too late. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Marcus shook his head violently. That's out of context. Angela didn't pause. Another clip played. I just need enough to start over. She'll be fine. I didn't look at him. I didn't need to. Then Tanya took the stand. She didn't look at Marcus once as she spoke. She told the truth about the lies, the money, the way he painted me as unstable. When she finished, the room felt heavier than air. Marcus's lawyer whispered urgently to him. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Carter, he said sternly, your actions suggest premeditation. Marcus opened his mouth. No sound came out. That was the moment I saw it, the full collapse. After the hearing, Marcus tried to approach me. Danielle, he said hoarsely. I stopped walking but didn't turn around. You took 18 years, I said quietly. You don't get another second. As I walked away, I felt something lift from my chest. Not joy. Relief. The weeks that followed were quiet, almost eerily so. Marcus had been suspended from work, and the investigation into his transfers was ongoing. He didn't try to contact me anymore, not through texts, calls, or messages. The house felt different, too. The air lighter. My space reclaimed. I spent mornings at the community center, afternoons at the library, evenings cooking my favorite meals while listening to gospel music. I laughed more freely, without checking over my shoulder. But even in that freedom, I stayed vigilant. I had learned the hard way. People like Marcus never disappear quietly. They linger in shadows, waiting for opportunity. Then one evening, around 7:45 p.m., my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I glanced at it, but didn't answer immediately. The message preview was short, chilling. You think it's over? Not yet. I frowned, but I didn't panic. I'd prepared for this possibility. I knew Marcus couldn't resist trying one last manipulation. I called Angela immediately. He's trying something, I said, showing her the message. Angela nodded grimly. Probably a bluff, but we need to be ready in case it's more. I blocked the number but saved the message. It was proof. Documentation. Strategy. The next day, I returned to Sterling Financial, not for Marcus, but to ensure every transfer and fraudulent attempt was fully accounted for. I met with the compliance team, provided them with every piece of evidence, and left feeling empowered. That evening, I was in the kitchen, chopping onions for jambalaya, when I heard the faint sound of footsteps outside. I paused, knife in hand. Then I saw Marcus, standing by the driveway, looking smaller than I remembered. No bravado, no arrogance, just desperation. I need to talk, he said. I didn't move immediately. I let him wait, like he'd made me wait for years with his lies. I want to fix this, he continued. I can give you everything back. We can start over. I laughed softly, shaking my head. Start over? Marcus, the only thing you can start over is your conscience. I'm done protecting you. He looked like he might argue, but I didn't give him the chance. I documented everything. The bank has it, my lawyer has it, Tanya has testified. There's nothing left for you to salvage, I said. He turned and walked away, defeated. I closed the door and leaned against it, heart still racing. 18 years of lies, deceit, and manipulation. All of it came crashing down, and I was the last one standing. That night, I poured myself a glass of sweet tea and sat on the porch. The city lights reflected off the river, calm and steady, just like I wanted my life to be. For the first time in years, I felt in control. Not because I had power over Marcus, but because I had reclaimed myself. And I knew, no matter what he tried next, he could never touch that. Weeks turned into months. Marcus had officially resigned from Sterling Financial. The investigation concluded with a formal reprimand and restitution orders. He had to return the misappropriated funds, plus penalties. It wasn't everything he'd stolen, but it was enough. More than that, he had no credibility left in our community. No allies. No lies to hide behind. I continued my work at the nonprofit, but now with a renewed sense of purpose. I helped women who had been manipulated, lied to, or financially betrayed. I shared my story cautiously, knowing how powerful it was, but only with those who needed to see that strength, honesty, and courage could rebuild what deceit tried to destroy. One afternoon, I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop, sipping iced tea, when my phone buzzed. A familiar number, blocked before. My heart skipped. I almost didn't answer. It was Marcus. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I smiled. No, I already know everything I need to know. I set the phone down. Outside, children were playing in the streets, neighbors laughing, the world moving forward. And so was I. Because the truth, harsh, painful, and raw, had freed me. The lies that had once shackled my life were gone. I thought about the voicemail that started it all. That small, seemingly innocuous message that revealed his double life. At the time, it felt like a disaster. But it had been the spark, the turning point. It forced me to see clearly, act decisively, and reclaim control. That night, I cooked a special meal, my favorite, red beans and rice, the kind Marcus had once loved. I set the table for one. I raised my glass of sweet tea. To honesty, I whispered. To strength, to the life I choose. And as I took a slow sip, I realized something important. Vengeance might have been satisfying, exposure necessary. But freedom was the ultimate victory. Marcus could only watch from the ruins of his own making. And me, I had the rest of my life to rebuild, stronger and wiser than I had ever been before. Because some lessons cost dearly, but the ones that teach you to never settle for lies, those are priceless.